After months of silence, we finally have major new updates for Dune Part 3, and now there are early signs the movie's release date might be changing. We've got fresh reports on where the production is right now, new update about the storyline and plot, early teases of new characters being brought into the saga, leaked filming locations, and more. But before we get into the release date drama, we have even crazier news you need to know about later. First up, Timothée Chalamet just confirmed that filming for Dune Part 3 has officially wrapped, and the production timeline they pulled off is breaking records. According to Chalamet himself, he finished shooting just days ago during a recent conversation with Adam Sandler, and when you look at the numbers, this becomes the fastest Dune movie Denis Villeneuve has ever made. Production kicked off on July 8, 2025 in Budapest, and the cameras stopped rolling on November 11th, making this roughly a 4-month shoot compared to the 5-month productions of the previous films. Now here's where things get really interesting with the release date situation. Right now, Dune Part 3 is officially scheduled to hit theaters on December 18, 2026, but so is Avengers Doomsday, and that's a problem nobody saw coming when Warner Bros. First claimed that date. Marvel shifted Doomsday from May 2026 to December after Dune already locked in that spot, which people in my comments were calling it Doomsday last video, which honestly was a pretty good name, and more people were saying they would watch Dune over Doomsday, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Why this is happening is because Alberto Barbera, the artistic director of the Venice Film Festival, confirmed he met with Denis Villeneuve at the Marrakesh Film Festival, and dropping a major hint that bringing Dune Part 3 forward to September could be a possibility. This isn't just about avoiding Marvel's juggernaut either. Premiering at Venice would be a strategic masterstroke for multiple reasons. The first Dune had its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival back in 2021, where it received an 8-minute standing ovation and generated the kind of critical momentum that carried it straight to 10 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. If Dune Part 3 premieres at Venice between September 2nd and 12th, 2026, it gives the movie a massive head start in building awards season buzz, before Avengers Doomsday even enters the conversation. But festival sources are saying something even more specific. If the film were releasing in December, the odds of a Venice premiere drop dramatically, but an October or November theatrical release, that makes a Venice debut way more plausible. But this isn't even the craziest news we have, because there is a big twist coming later. Moving on, industry insider Empire City Box Office is reporting that Warner Bros. Is likely planning an earlier release date to avoid the Avengers clash, and a delay into 2027 is extremely unlikely because Villeneuve needs to move on to his next project, which happens to be James Bond 26. That's right, Villeneuve is officially directing the next James Bond film, and that commitment is putting pressure on the Dune timeline in ways most people haven't realized yet. The Bond movie is a massive priority for Amazon MGM Studios, and Villeneuve can't fully dedicate himself to casting and pre-production for that until Dune Part 3 is completely finished, including post-production and the global press tour. Sources close to the situation say Villeneuve won't start casting for Bond 26 until after he wraps everything on Dune, and they're specifically looking for an unknown British actor in his late 20s to early 30s to reboot the franchise. That means if Dune stays in December 2026 and becomes an awards contender, Villeneuve would be locked into press tours and awards campaigns well into early 2027, which would push Bond 26 filming even further back. Moving Dune up to September, October, or November solves that problem entirely. That means if Dune stays in December 2026 and becomes an awards contender, Villeneuve would be locked into press tours and awards campaigns well into early 2027, which would push Bond 26 filming even further back. Moving Dune up to September, October, or November solves that problem entirely. Do you see where I am going with this? The movie wrapped filming in November 2025, which gives the post-production team roughly 10 months if it releases in September, or up to a full year if it shifts to October or November. But guys, this isn't even the craziest news we have, because later we have even more fresh updates. But first, let's talk about what's actually in this movie, because the cast and story details are absolutely stacked. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya are obviously returning as Paul Atreides and Chani, but their relationship is in a completely different place after the ending of Part 2. Paul chose political power by marrying Princess Irulan, played by Florence Pugh, and Chani went off into the desert, feeling utterly betrayed. Recent reports say the story picks up 12 years later during Paul's reign as emperor, and the place is drowning in the consequences of his holy war, which has killed over 61 billion people according to the book. Jason Momoa is coming back as Duncan Idaho, which is huge because the character died in the first movie. In the source material, Duncan returns as a Gola, and here's something wild: Jason Momoa's real-life son, Nakoa Wolf Momoa, has been cast as Leto II, one of Paul and Chani's twin children. He's starring opposite Ida Brooke, who plays his twin sister Ganaima. This confirms that Villeneuve is incorporating elements from the third Dune book, Children of Dune, which wasn't expected. The presence of teenage twins suggests a potential time jump or a mashup adaptation that goes beyond just Dune Messiah. But guys, keep watching because we have more major production updates coming later. Now for the juicy part, Robert Pattinson finally confirmed his involvement in the movie after months of rumors, casually mentioning during a press interview for his film Die My Love that shooting in the desert was so hot he couldn't even think. He's reportedly playing Scytale, the main villain of Dune Messiah, a character who's part of a massive conspiracy. Scytale is a shape-shifting face dancer in the books, a manipulative and strange character that plays mind games with Paul while the Emperor's prescient visions start failing him. This is exactly the kind of weird, uncomfortable role Pattinson excels at. Anya Taylor-Joy is returning as Aaliyah Atreides after her brief appearance at the end of Part 2, and her role is expected to be significantly expanded. Rebecca Ferguson confirmed she's returning as Lady Jessica, despite the character barely appearing in the Dune Messiah novel. She said she wasn't sure she was supposed to be in the movie at all, but Villeneuve had a little idea about how to incorporate her, and she's already finished filming her scenes. Josh Brolin also confirmed he's back as Gurney Halleck, though he admitted his role is pretty small this time around. Javier Bardem is expected to return as Stilgar, the Fremen leader whose blind faith in Paul drives much of the Holy War, and he joked to Variety that he'd be very angry with Villeneuve if he wasn't included since Stilgar is in the book. Warner Bros. Hasn't officially announced the title, but production materials confirm it's being called Dune Part 3 instead of Dune Messiah, which has sparked some debate among fans. Some people love the simplicity of keeping the Part 3 branding to maintain consistency with the first two films, while others argue that Messiah is a way cooler and more thematically appropriate title that signals this is adapting a different book. Villeneuve himself has said he doesn't see this as a traditional trilogy, but rather as two films that adapt the first Dune novel followed by a standalone third film that's tonally and narratively distinct. But let me know in the comments which title you like more and which one they should go with. There's also the question of how Villeneuve will handle the relationship between Paul and Chani, which he's called the essence of the story. In the books, Chani dies in childbirth after Princess Irulan secretly puts contraceptives in her food for years, weakening her reproductive system. But the ending of Part 2 completely changed their dynamic, with Chani leaving Paul instead of standing by him. Let me know what you think will happen to them in the comments below. Principal photography took place across multiple locations. The production started in Budapest, Hungary at Origo Film Studios, where most of the interior sets and controlled environment scenes were filmed. Then the cast and crew moved to the Liwa Desert in Abu Dhabi for the extensive Arrakis desert sequences. Also, the Abu Dhabi Film Commission provided support for the production. Entire Fremen village was built in the middle of the desert for Part 2, and it's likely that similar large-scale practical sets were constructed for Part 3. Villeneuve is known for prioritizing practical effects and real locations over green screen whenever possible, which is part of what makes his Dune films feel so immersive and grounded despite being massive sci-fi spectacles. The combination of practical desert photography on IMAX film with cutting-edge visual effects for the sandworms, ornithopters, and space sequences is what separates these movies from typical CGI-heavy blockbusters. Reports say one of the most anticipated movies of 2026, and the fact that we might get it earlier than expected is honestly the best news fans could have hoped for. An October or November release gives it breathing room away from Marvel, positions it perfectly for award season, and lets Villeneuve close out his Dune trilogy on his own terms before moving on to reinvent James Bond. The changes being made behind the scenes, from the title to the release date to the decision to shoot on film, all point to a director who knows exactly what he's doing and isn't afraid to make bold, creative choices to deliver the best possible version of this story. Are you more excited to see how the story plays out? Or are you hyped to finally see Robert Pattinson as the villain? I'm Brian from Cinema Surge, and I will be covering every single update as we get closer to the release. So guys, please subscribe for the best and fastest updates, news, and first looks on your favorite movies.